The weight of what was mine. The handcuffs felt like ice against my wrists. I remember thinking, in that fractured, surreal moment when Officer Daniels pulled my arms behind my back, that this couldn't be real. That I'd wake up in my apartment, alarm blaring, another Monday stretching ahead with lesson plans and parent-teacher conferences. Normal things, safe things. But the metal bit into my skin, and the parking lot of Jefferson Elementary didn't dissolve into dream fog. It stayed solid. Cracked asphalt, the hopscotch grid my third graders had chalked yesterday. Mrs. Brennan from the front office standing by the entrance with her hand over her mouth. Emma Hayes, you're under arrest for possession of a controlled substance with intent to distribute. The words hit like fists. Each one separate. Each one impossible. What? My voice came out small, a child's voice. What are you talking about? Daniels wouldn't look at me. He was young, maybe 25, and his hands shook slightly as he secured the cuffs. Behind him, his partner, Rodriguez, I'd later learn, stood beside my Honda Civic with the driver's side door open. She was wearing latex gloves, blue, like the sky above us. Like this was any other October afternoon in suburban Massachusetts. We received a credible tip. Search of your vehicle revealed 3 ounces of methamphetamine in a plastic bag beneath the passenger seat. The ground tilted. No, that's not mine. I've never... The words tangled in my throat. Around us, a crowd was forming. Teachers. Parents picking up their kids. I saw Melissa Carter, whose daughter was in my class, pull her phone out, recording. Everyone was recording. This was my life ending in high definition. You have the right to remain silent, Daniels began, and I stopped hearing him because all I could think was, someone put that there. Someone opened my car, placed drugs inside it, and called the police. Someone wanted me here, in handcuffs, watching my career and reputation dissolve in real time. Someone wanted to destroy me. They took me to the station in the back of a cruiser, and I watched my school disappear through the rear window, getting smaller and smaller until it was just a shape, then a memory, then gone. The holding cell was small and smelled like disinfectant and fear. They took my belt, my phone, my dignity. I sat on a metal bench and tried to understand how this was my life now. My father's voice came to me then, as clear as if he were sitting beside me. Emma, the world isn't always fair, but it's always watching. Character is what you do when no one's looking. Dad had been gone 8 months. Heart attack at 53, sudden and brutal and wrong. He'd been healthy. He ran every morning. He ate salads. And then one Tuesday in February, he collapsed in his office at the bank, and by the time the ambulance arrived, he was already somewhere else, somewhere I couldn't follow. Mom took it hard. We both did. But where my grief felt like drowning, hers felt like disappearing. She stopped calling, stopped answering texts. When I drive over to the house, my childhood home, the place where Dad had taught me to ride a bike, and Mom had helped me with college applications, she'd be distant, distracted. Her eyes looked past me, through me, at something I couldn't see. I'm fine, Emma, she'd say. I just need time. So I gave her time. I gave her space. I gave her everything except suspicion, because she was my mother, and you don't suspect your mother of anything worse than maybe drinking too much wine or forgetting to return a phone call. You don't suspect her of planting drugs in your car. But sitting in that cell, watching the fluorescent lights flicker overhead, I started doing the math, the timeline, the strangeness. 3 weeks ago, Mom had asked to borrow my car. Hers was in the shop, she said, just for a day. I'd said yes because that's what you do. She'd picked it up in the morning, brought it back that evening with a full tank of gas and a thank you text. Had that been when... No, I couldn't think it. Wouldn't. My lawyer arrived around 6 p.m. Court-appointed, overworked, carrying a briefcase held together with duct tape. His name was Martin Webb, And he looked at my case file the way doctors look at terminal diagnosis. "Miss Hayes," he said, sitting across from me in the interview room. "I'll be straight with you. This doesn't look good. 3 ounces is well over the threshold for possession. They're calling it intent to distribute. If convicted, you're looking at 5 to 10 years. The room spun. "I didn't do this," I said. My voice sounded stronger than I felt. "I'm a 3rd-grade teacher. I've never even seen meth in real life." "I believe you," Webb said. And I wanted to cry because those 3 words felt like the first solid ground I'd touched since this morning. "My mother borrowed my car," I heard myself say. 3 weeks ago. Webb wrote something down. "Your mother? Elizabeth Hayes? Elizabeth Morrison now." The correction felt important somehow. She went back to her maiden name after my dad died. "And you think she might have—" "No." The word came out too fast, too defensive. "I don't know. I don't know what to think." But I was lying. To him. To myself, because I did know. Deep in the part of your gut that recognizes danger before your brain catches up, I knew. They released me on bail the next morning, $20,000 that wiped out most of my savings. I drove home in my impounded Honda, which now felt contaminated, cursed. The steering wheel might as well have been made of snakes. My phone had exploded overnight. Texts, emails, missed calls. The principal had placed me on administrative leave, pending investigation. Translation, fired without the paperwork. Parents were demanding I be removed permanently. Someone had created a Facebook page, "Keep drug dealers away from our children." My face was the profile picture. I turned the phone off and drove to the one place I thought might still be safe, Mom's house. The driveway looked the same. Dad's basketball hoop still hung above the garage, net frayed but present, like a ghost of every Sunday afternoon we'd spent shooting hoops together. The garden Mom used to obsess over had gone wild. Roses unpruned, weeds taking over the flower beds. The whole place looked neglected, forgotten. I knocked, waited, knocked again. "Emma?" Mom opened the door wearing a bathrobe at 2 in the afternoon, her hair unwashed, eyes rimmed red. But there was something else there too, something that flickered and vanished before I could name it. "Sweetheart, what are you doing here? I heard what happened. Come in, come in." The house smelled wrong. Not bad exactly, but different. Stale coffee and something chemical, something sharp that made my sinuses burn. Mom led me to the living room where Dad's favorite armchair sat empty, and I felt the grief hit fresh, like it had just happened yesterday instead of 8 months ago. "I can't believe this," Mom said, settling onto the couch. She looked small in her oversized robe, vulnerable. This was the woman who raised me, who stayed up all night when I had chickenpox, who cried at my college graduation. "Drugs? Emma, that's insane. You have to fight this. You have to prove—" "I borrowed my car 3 weeks ago," I said, watching her face. "Do you remember?" Something flickered again, faster this time. Yes, I remember. My car was being serviced." "At which shop?" "What? Which shop? I'll need to tell my lawyer. He's building a timeline." Mom stood up suddenly, walking to the window. "I don't remember. Someplace on Route 20. Emma, why does this matter? Surely you don't think—" "Someone put those drugs in my car," I said. Each word careful, deliberate. Someone who had access to it. Someone who knew it would destroy my life. "You think Mom turned, and her face was a mask I didn't recognize. Hurt. Anger. Something else underneath. Something cold. "I'm your mother. How dare you come into this house, your father's house, and accuse me of—" "I'm not accusing you," I said, but I was. We both knew I was. "I'm just trying to understand what happened." "What happened is that you made a mistake," Mom said, her voice sharp now, cutting. "Maybe you got involved with the wrong people. Maybe you needed money. God knows teachers don't make enough. Maybe you thought you could—" "Stop." The word came out like a gunshot. "Stop talking." We stared at each other across the living room. across the wreckage of our family, across some chasm that had opened when Dad died and just kept getting wider. "I think you should leave," Mom said finally. "And I think you should get help, Emma. Professional help. Because this paranoia, these accusations, they're not healthy." I left, drove home, sat in my apartment and tried to make sense of a world where your mother could look at you like a stranger, like you're the enemy. The investigation crept forward like a wounded thing. Webb subpoenaed my phone records, my bank statements, my entire life. Everything came back clean. No suspicious calls, no unusual deposits, no evidence that I'd ever been anywhere near drugs. "That's good," Webb said during one of our meetings. "That's very good. But it's not enough. The prosecution will argue you were careful, that you covered your tracks." "What about my car? Can't they check for prints on the bag?" "They did. Yours are the only ones they found." "That's impossible. I never touched." "Doesn't matter. The bag was in your car, under your seat. The burden of proof is on us now." I wanted to scream, wanted to break something. Instead, I asked, "What about my mother?" Webb looked up from his notes. "What about her? Have you looked into her finances, her—" "Emma." He said my name gently, like you'd speak to someone on a ledge. "I understand you're under tremendous stress, but accusing your mother without evidence is—" "Then get evidence," I said. "Please, look into her. I know it sounds crazy, but something's wrong. Something's been wrong since my dad died." Webb sighed, but made a note. "I'll see what I can find. No promises." 3 days later, I was at the grocery store when I saw him. He was standing in the frozen food aisle, mid-40s, wearing an expensive leather jacket and holding a basket with nothing in it. He wasn't shopping. He was watching the entrance, checking his phone every 30 seconds, waiting for someone. And then Mom appeared. I ducked behind a display of cereal boxes and watched. Mom walked up to the man, said something I couldn't hear. He put his hand on her lower back, casual, intimate, and they walked toward the exit together, her laughing at something he'd said, her whole body language different, looser, younger, alive in a way I hadn't seen since Dad died. Maybe since before Dad died. I followed them out to the parking lot, keeping distance, feeling like a spy in my own life. They got into separate cars, Mom in her Honda, the man in a black Lexus, and drove away in the same direction. I sat in my car and Googled Elizabeth Morrison boyfriend, Massachusetts on my phone. Nothing useful. Changed the search to Elizabeth Hayes affair. Still nothing. But I knew what I had seen. I knew what it meant. The question was, what did it have to do with my arrest? That night, I did something I'm not proud of. I drove to Mom's house after midnight, parked 3 houses down, and waited. The lights were off. Her car was in the driveway. Everything looked normal, quiet, suburban. At 1:15 a.m., a black Lexus pulled up. The man from the grocery store got out, let himself in with a key, and disappeared inside. I waited 30 minutes, then walked up to the house, circling around to the back where the kitchen window faced the yard. The curtains were drawn, but not completely. There was a gap, maybe 6 inches, enough to see inside if you stood on tiptoe and didn't mind feeling like a criminal. I stood on tiptoe. They were at the kitchen table, Mom and the man. Between them, paperwork. Lots of paperwork. Mom was pointing at something, explaining, and the man was nodding, writing things down. I couldn't hear them through the glass, but I could read body language. This wasn't romantic. This was business. Then Mom got up, walked to the counter, and returned with a folder. She opened it, pulled out what looked like a deed or title, official, embossed, and slid it across the table. The man smiled, and Mom smiled back, but her smile was different, harder, satisfied, like someone who just won something. I took out my phone and started recording through the window, zooming in as much as I could. The quality would be terrible, but it was something. Evidence of something, even if I didn't know what yet. Then the man looked up. Our eyes met through the window, just for a second, just long enough for his expression to change from satisfaction to alarm, and I ran, sprinted back to my car, fumbling with my keys, expecting him to burst out of the house any second, to chase me down, but nothing happened. I drove away, heart hammering, hands shaking so badly I could barely steer. When I got home, I watched the video I'd taken. The quality was worse than I'd hoped. Grainy, distant, barely usable. But I could see the paperwork. I could see the deed. And I could see the address printed on it. 247 Oakmont Drive. My childhood home. Mom was selling the house. "This changes everything," Webb said when I showed him the video 2 days later. We were in his office, a cramped space above a Vietnamese restaurant that smelled permanently of pho. "Your mother is in a relationship with someone. They're conducting what appears to be a real estate transaction, and she didn't disclose any of this. Emma, I need you to think carefully. Did your father leave a will?" "Yes," I said. "Everything went to Mom. The house, his life insurance, his retirement accounts. Standard stuff." "And you were okay with that?" "They'd been married 30 years. Of course I was okay with it. I have my own life, my own—" I stopped. "Wait, you think this is about money?" "I think everything is about money. Question is, how much and why now?" He made some calls, pulled some records. 3 hours later, he had an answer. "Your mother refinanced the house 6 weeks ago. Took out a home equity loan for $300,000. The house is worth about $650,000, so she's leveraged pretty heavily." $300,000? The number felt unreal. What does she need that much money for? That's what we need to find out. But here's the interesting part. The man in your video, his name is Richard Dalton. He's a real estate developer, and he's currently facing fraud charges in Connecticut for a scheme involving, you ready for this? Fabricated property documents and stolen equity. The pieces were coming together, forming a picture I didn't want to see. "She's working with him," I said slowly. "Mom borrowed money against the house, and now she's, what, trying to sell it? But why would she need to frame me for—" And then I understood. Dad's life insurance. I'm the beneficiary if something happens to Mom. And the house, it would go to me if she died or went to prison or was declared incompetent. I'm the only heir. Webb leaned back in his chair, his expression grim. "If you're in prison for drug trafficking, you can't inherit. You can't contest the sale. You can't ask questions. You're just gone." Mom hadn't been trying to destroy me. She'd been trying to erase me. We went to Detective Rodriguez with everything we had. The video, the financial records, Richard Dalton's criminal history. She listened, made notes, and promised to look into it. "But I have to warn you, this is circumstantial. Suspicious, yes, but not proof of a crime. We need something concrete, a confession maybe, or evidence that directly links your mother to the drugs in your car." "So what do I do?" I asked. "Just wait around while she sells my father's house and I go to prison for something I didn't do?" Rodriguez's expression softened slightly. "I'm not saying give up. I'm saying be smart. If your mother did this, she made mistakes. People always do. Our job is to find them." I went home, feeling hollowed out, scraped clean. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dad, about the last conversation we'd had before he died. We'd been at the house, just the two of us, and he'd been teaching me how to fix a leaky faucet in the upstairs bathroom. "Your mother's been different lately," he'd said, cranking a wrench. "Distant. I don't know if it's menopause or what, but she's not herself. Maybe she's just stressed. Work stuff? Maybe." But he looked troubled, uncertain. "Emma, if anything happens to me—" "Dad, nothing's going to happen to you. But if it does, promise me you'll watch out for yourself. Don't trust anyone completely. Not even—" He'd stopped himself, shaken his head. "Never mind, old man rambling." I'd laughed it off. But now I wondered, had he known? Had he seen something in Mom that I'd missed? Some darkness growing? At 3 a.m., my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Emma Hayes? A man's voice, nervous, rushed. Who is this? My name is Richard Dalton. I need to meet with you. Tomorrow, alone. It's about your mother. My hands went cold. Why would I? Because she's going to kill me, he said. And you're next. We met at a Dunkin' Donuts on Route 20. Public and safe. Dalton looked terrible. Unwashed, unshaven, eyes darting around like he expected police to burst in at any moment. He ordered coffee he didn't drink and sat across from me in a back booth. I didn't know she was going to frame you. I swear to God, Emma. I thought we were just doing a real estate deal. Flip the house, split the profit. But then she started talking about you, about how you'd complicate things, how you'd contest the sale. So you helped her, I said, keeping my voice flat. Dangerous. You helped her plant drugs in my car? No, I didn't do that part. That was all her. She said she had it handled, that you'd be out of the picture. I didn't ask questions because... He rubbed his face. Because I'm an idiot. Because I was thinking with the wrong head. Because she promised me $200,000 if I kept my mouth shut. But now you're here? Now I'm scared. He pulled out his phone, pulled up a text message chain, and showed it to me. The messages were from Liz, and they were horrifying. Richard, we need to talk about loose ends. That detective is asking questions. If you talk, we're both finished. Remember what happened to David. Remember that it can happen again. David. My father. What does she mean? I asked, my voice barely working. What happened to my father? Dalton looked at me with something like pity. Emma, your father didn't have a heart attack. Or he did, but your mother gave him something, triggered it. She told me when she was drunk one night it was a funny story. She said he was going to change his will, leave everything to you. So she fixed it. The world stopped spinning. She killed him, I whispered. I can't prove it, neither can you, but I think she did. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. My mother, the woman who'd sung me lullabies, who'd bandaged my scraped knees, who'd been my entire concept of safety and love, had murdered my father. And then she'd tried to destroy me too? Why are you telling me this? I managed to ask. Because I'm wearing a wire, Dalton said. Detective Rodriguez convinced me to cooperate. This whole conversation, they're hearing it. And I'm going to get your mother on tape admitting everything. That's the deal. I testify, I get immunity. I looked around the Dunkin' Donuts, suddenly seeing it differently. Was Rodriguez here? Watching? I'm sorry, Dalton said, and he actually looked it. For what it's worth, I really am. But I'm not going to prison for your psychopath mother. The sting happened 3 days later. Dalton called Mom, said he was panicking, said they needed to meet and get their story straight. They agreed on a location, the house on Oakmont Drive, my father's house, the place where this had all started. Rodriguez set up surveillance, audio, video, the works. I sat in an unmarked van half a block away, watching on a monitor as Mom and Dalton met in the living room. She looked calm, collected, completely in control. Right up until Dalton said, Liz, I'm scared. What if Emma figures out what we did? What if she finds out about the meth? Mom's expression didn't change. She won't. She's too trusting. Always has been. But what if the police start digging? What if they connect me to... They won't, because you're going to keep your mouth shut, just like you did about David. There it was, the opening. I still can't believe we pulled that off, Dalton said, following the script Rodriguez had given him. The heart attack angle was genius. Digitalis, Mom said casually. She was discussing a recipe. Small doses over 3 weeks. Builds up in the system, triggers cardiac arrest. Untraceable unless they're specifically looking for it. And why would they? David had high blood pressure. He was a walking time bomb. On the monitor, I watched my mother smile. And Emma? Dalton pressed. You're sure the drug thing will stick? Doesn't matter anymore. Even if she beats the charges, I'll have sold this house by then. She'll have nothing. No inheritance, no reputation, no leverage. She'll be exactly where she deserves to be. Powerless. Jesus, Liz, that's your daughter. Mom shrugged. She's a liability. David was too sentimental about her. Left her in the will. Wanted her to have the house someday. But I built this life. I put up with 30 years of mediocrity with that man. This is my payout. In the van, Rodriguez looked at me. We've got enough. Moving in now. The arrest was fast, professional. Rodriguez and 4 other officers entered the house, read my mother her rights, cuffed her while she screamed about lawyers and rights and conspiracies. Dalton was cuffed too, just for show. His deal was already done. I stayed in the van. I couldn't watch, couldn't face her. But then Rodriguez came back and said, "She's asking for you." No. Emma, you don't have to, but I think you should. For closure. For yourself. So I went. Mom was sitting in the back of a patrol car, cuffed, mascara running down her face. When she saw me, her expression cycled through a dozen emotions. Shock, anger, betrayal, and finally something that might have been resignation. "You recorded us," she said, not a question. "Yeah? That little weasel, Richard, sold me out." We looked at each other through the car window, through 30 years of memories that were now garbage, lies, fabrications. "Why?" I asked. The only question that mattered. Mom laughed, actually laughed. "Why? Emma, when was the last time anyone saw me, really saw me? Your father saw the mortgage and the bills. You saw a babysitter when you needed one. I was invisible for 30 years. This house, that money, it was supposed to be my chance to finally be someone. So you killed Dad and tried to destroy me?" "I tried to free myself," Mom corrected. "You were just in the way." I wanted to cry, wanted to scream, wanted to understand how the woman who'd raised me had become this stranger. But there was nothing left to say, nothing left to salvage. "Goodbye, Mom," I said. She didn't respond. The patrol car pulled away, taking her toward a future of courtrooms and prison cells and consequences. I stood in the driveway of my childhood home and felt nothing at all. The trial took 8 months. Mom pleaded not guilty, claimed Dalton had manipulated her, that she'd been coerced. But the recordings were clear. The evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for 3 hours. Guilty on all counts: first-degree murder, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, fraud. The judge gave her 8 years on the drug charges, 25 to life for Dad's murder. Dalton got 6 years for his cooperation. My own charges were dismissed with prejudice. The school offered me my job back, an apology wrapped in legal language and liability concerns. I declined. Jefferson Elementary felt like a place from someone else's life. Instead, I sold the house on Oakmont Drive. Couldn't keep it. Couldn't live there knowing what had happened under that roof. I took the money and moved to Maine, to a small town where nobody knew my name or my story. I teach now at a local elementary school, 4th grade. The kids are good. They don't know about arrests or betrayals or mothers who kill. They just know I'm Miss Hayes, and I help them with fractions and state capitals and all the small, manageable problems of being 10 years old. Sometimes I think about Dad, wonder if he knew at the end what was happening to him, if he was scared, if he thought about me. Sometimes I think about Mom, sitting in a cell in Framingham, and I try to feel something, anger, grief, anything. But mostly, I just feel tired. The truth is, you can survive betrayal. You can survive losing everything. You can even survive learning that the person who was supposed to protect you was actually the one trying to destroy you. You survive because the alternative is letting them win, and I'm not going to let her win. Every morning, I wake up. I make coffee. I go to work. I teach kids how to be good people, how to be honest, how to recognize that the world isn't always safe, but they can be strong anyway. And every morning, I prove that she didn't break me. That's not forgiveness. That's not closure. But it's enough. It has to be enough.